Hi everyone, I'm making a video about Subaru WRX and STI, the decision between both cars. For those who love Subaru, it took me a long time to decide which car to get, so just want to make this video. Hopefully it'll help you decide what decision to make. So both cars look exactly the same. The STI has a spoiler and it has bigger wheels. And smaller tires. On the inside, however, mechanically they're completely different. So STI has a reinforced engine, 2.5 liter, 310 horsepower. So it has about 35 more horsepower and about 40 pounds more of torque. And it has a half a liter bigger motor than the WRX. WRX has only 2.0 liter motor. It's a 268 horsepower and about 250 pounds of torque, I believe. And then the difference is that STI engine has been made since 1995 or like late 90s. It's an old design engine, but it's been proven and we know what all the problems it has and we could predict and we know how to fix it because it's still the same engine up until 2021. In 2022, they will be changing the engine to different. They'll be redesigning the car completely. The engine, everything is going to be a global platform. So we know that the engine has been around for over 20 years. The WRX motor, FA motor, is a new motor. It's a twin scroll turbo and it's a direct port injection. It came out in 2015 and it's been out since 2015. It's a newer motor. From what I read, it has a little bit less problems than the EJ motor, the older, the 2.5 liter. So, but they really don't know yet what problems it has. So it might still have problems. It does run on higher pressure, like higher boost than the 2.5 liter. Also, STI has a transmission it's pretty much indestructible transmission. It's a heavy duty handmade transmission made for rally cars, for racing. So it's able to take at least 600 horsepower from the factory. So you could, if you're planning to modify the car, then the STI is better choice for you because you could actually put 600 horsepower and maybe a little bit more, maybe up to 700, and then you won't have to worry about your transmission going out. The WRX transmission is probably, from what I read, it could only hold up like up until 350 horsepower, maybe 400. I don't really know. Some people claim they had like 400, 450 horsepower. They did not say, however, if they had to rebuild or reinforce the transmission, but the transmission does feel the shifter when I'm shifting the gears, and I've been driving manual transmission cars for over 20 years. It feels just like the same shifter as a regular manual transmission Impreza, because I used to have 2011 Impreza that was manual 5-speed. So this transmission feels just like the 5-speed that just added extra gear into the 6-speed. That's how it feels to me. Feels like a economy generic transmission that they had for many years. Whereas STI transmission feels like a heavy duty. It's a special transmission that probably the best transmission I've ever driven. It shifts really fast. It grabs the clutch really fast. And I know, going back to WRX, they had a rev hang problem. Rev hang is when you're shifting into the gear and it takes about like a second or so, maybe a second and a half. It takes some time where the RPM just hangs in there. It doesn't grab the gear right away. And in 2021, when I'm shifting gears in WRX, they seem to fix that problem because I have not felt that. I drove a 2018 before 17 WRX and it had a rev hang. It feels like the 2021 does not have that problem. So the transmission on STI is much better. The engine is reinforced. It's older design, but it does have a lot of flaws throughout the years. As we know, STI is blowing up the motors, which I think is also caused by people driving them like the cars are stolen, and not checking the oil pressure, and not really maintaining, and just beating on the engine, and not knowing how to shift the motor, how to shift the gears, redlining the motor, and then the motor's gonna blow up. So there you go. The engines are different, transmissions are different. Also, STI has that really huge spoiler in the back, and the spoiler really works only after 60 miles an hour, so it's like highway speeds. So you're not gonna really feel any difference. But however, actually, let me show you the spoiler. So the WRX has this spoiler. It's a really nice spoiler. It's a flat spoiler. Looks really nice. I don't like STI spoiler just because it draws attention to you when you're driving. It's drawing a lot of attention from police, from the car thieves, from people trying to race you. Just the car stands out too much, and you could see it from blocks away. And I really don't like that. I want to be able to blend in with the other cars. I don't want to be really standing out. So when you see that big spoiler, you could see it from blocks away. It just draws unwanted attention, and that's not what you need, or at least that's not what I need. So I really don't like the fact it has that big spoiler, even though it looks cool. To remove that spoiler, if you remove it, it's gonna have holes in the trunk, so you're gonna have to patch the holes. It's a problem. You have to spend money or put a different spoiler. If you could do that yourself, it'll cost you a few $100s. If you ask a dealership to replace and put like a low spoiler, like the WRX comes with that, it's like extra $1,000. So you'll be paying extra $20 a month if you finance it with your payment. Also, STI is $10,000 more than WRX, so you're paying $200 to $300 more per month on your payments. If that's not an issue to you, then obviously you don't care about money, then it doesn't matter. Also, there was one thing I forgot to mention. Try to remember. So the STI gets a lot worse gas mileage. It only gets like 19 and 23. That's 4 miles worse than WRX. WRX gets 24 and 27. So 5 miles a gallon, 4 miles a gallon is actually a huge difference, which meaning they have the same gas tank. So you will be getting about 75, 80 miles less per tank on the same vehicle, the same gas tank. So if that doesn't matter to you, if you don't really care about extra 80 miles out of your tank, then you should get the STI. I do want to mention that if money is not an issue to you and you don't care about spending extra $10,000 and paying more for the parts, STI uses special brakes, which is really phenomenal. They stop the car real quick, and WRX has just a regular brakes. So if you don't care about the money and you could spend more money on the parts, on the brakes, and pay $10,000 more, and you want to draw attention to yourself, you should definitely get the STI. So if money is not a factor to you, you should definitely get the STI. And if you're planning to modify your car to a high horsepower, you should definitely get the STI, because you're not gonna have to do a lot of modifications to get it up there like on WRX, because WRX is already pretty much kind of maxed out from the factory with the horsepower. You can do some bolt-on modifications, which will add like maybe up to 350 horsepower or 400, and it should not really mess up your motor if you tune the car the right way. But that's as far as it's gonna go. Okay, so the engines pretty much comes already maxed out, and if you get a huge turbo, then you could actually probably blow up your motor or blow up your transmission. So WRX comes already kind of maxed out from the factory. STI comes as just like a basic car that is made for building and for racing and for rallying. Okay, so it's a special car. It's a street legal rally car, and WRX is just a regular sports car. It's a regular sedan. That's a sports car. Also, I want to mention here on the WRX, there's nothing here On the STI, you have this. There's a knob. There's a dial over here. This dial is to adjust your. It's called like DCCD. It's a control that where you can adjust the torque from front to back. So pretty much what that means is you could adjust if you want the car to be more front wheel drive or rear wheel drive or all wheel drive. And that's really made for racing. If you like drifting, you could adjust it. You just turn the knob and adjust it, and like you'll have pretty much a back wheel drive car. Or you could adjust it to like all wheel drive car if you're like driving in snow or whatever. And it has like a option where it's like in mud and snow. If you're like stuck in mud and snow, you can actually select that option, and it's going to help you get through snow and mud. And it also has limited slip. Limited slip means that all four wheels will be turning at the same time and pushing the car out, which is really helpful in like deep mud and snow. WRX just has a floating all-wheel drive. It's symmetrical, which means that the computer decides when the wheels are starting to slip, is going to activate the ones that are not slipping, and it's going to help you get out from the snow or mud. So it probably will not go through as deep of a mud or snow like STI, because STI is made for rally racing, and STI could actually go through mud and snow for a long period of time, like for hours and hours. You could be driving in deep snow and mud, as long as you don't bottom out, as long as the snow is not too deep and you could clear it with your undercarriage, you're gonna go through that for hours and days. It's not gonna overheat. WRX, I heard there's some kind of like a break on there or something in there that it will overheat if you're driving through like really deep snow and mud for a long time. So that's what I heard from mechanics. I don't know, but that's what they explained to me. So and that's why STI is $10,000 more, because for $10,000 that you're getting actually a lot more performance stuff that it's really useful. However, if you're not really planning to drive to like go on a track or drive in the mud or deep snow, or just not planning to drive like for hours and hours, you don't really need it. So that $10,000 is going to probably look kind of wasted. But like I said, if you have no money problems and money is not an issue to you, you should just get the STI. However, I do want to show you a few things that I actually don't like about the STI. Besides having all these emblems here, it's kind of flashy. Like WRX does not have all these emblems. My steering wheel doesn't have emblems. So it looks like a regular car, which is really, I like to blend in. The big thing and what I don't like about the STI, my WRX comes with the 17-inch wheels. You could also get them in 18 if it's a high model. I got it purposely as a base model because I like having this extra tire. This tire is okay for the potholes for the city. The STI comes with 19-inch wheels. What that means is you're only going to get this much tire. You're going to get half of this. Only half of this tire. So you're only getting this much tire on the STI. Because it's using a bigger brakes, huge rotors. Those huge rotors have to fit on bigger wheels, bigger rims, so it comes with 19-inch rims, which makes the ride even more rougher, because STI already has a really rough ride because it has a special stiff suspension for racing, and it feels like you're driving on stones, WRX still feels like you're driving a normal car somewhat, so much softer suspension, much softer wheels. But you could actually improve that with STI a little bit if you buy a smaller wheel and you go to 18-inch tires and wheels, then you'll get an inch of extra more tire, 1 inch more tire on your wheel. However, that's still not enough. Your ride is still gonna be rough because it's a racing suspension and it has big wheels, and because of those huge rotors you will not be able to put 17-inch wheel on your STI. So you're pretty much stuck with 18-inch or 19 or bigger, which is, by the way, if you increase the wheel anything more than 16 inches, your car is actually going to lose acceleration. That's why on those drag racing cars, they actually have them, they have big tires and smaller wheels because that actually gives you better acceleration. So you don't want to have those big wheels. The reason why they have big wheels on today's cars is because these big wheels, they look really cool and they're nice and shiny and they look really cool. So if you have nice shiny wheels, then the car is going to sell more because people like to see big nice rims. They don't want to see really like just boring black tire. They want to see nice shiny rims, so they're going to sell more cars and it looks cool. But however, there's a downside to that. So like I already said, your car is slower. Also, another big problem, if you hit a pothole or something on the road, you don't have much protection on the STI on those big wheels with skinny tires. They're called low profile tires. You don't have any protection. So if you hit a pothole, your rim is going to either crack and blow up your tire while you're driving and you might crash, or it's going to bend, called warp. It's going to warp. So which means going from perfect sphere is going to go to like being not perfect sphere. And that's if you're lucky. But you know, it could actually crack your rim and blow up your tire right away while you're driving, and then you're going to lose control. Hopefully not driving on the highway. So hopefully you're lucky, you just bends your wheel on your rim and you're actually able to make it home. But what's going to happen then is your car is going to start hopping. When you're going to go on the highway, it's going to like feels like it's jumping. That's what's going to happen. And to fix that wheel, it's going to cost a few $100s to fix that wheel from being perfectly round. And actually it's never going to be the same, so you have to buy a new wheel then. And each wheel is like $500 or more on STI and WRX. So that's what happens when you have those stupid big wheels that the manufacturers have new trend putting on the car. They have those big wheels. So on the WRX, it actually comes with 17, and you could actually buy a bigger tire. You could go from 235/45 to 255/45. What that means is you're going to gain extra inch on your tire. So that's going to give you more protection from the pothole. So if you go in a pothole or some hole, it's not going to really, you have less chances of messing up your wheel. And your ride is going to become really smooth and soft. That's why another reason why I like WRX more is because I can actually get bigger tires. Well, on STI, I really cannot. So also, for that reason, so you're getting bigger tires on STI. It does give you a little bit more, or I should say better handling when you have those big wheels. That's why they also use them on sports cars, because they figured out it gives you better handling. What that means is you have less body roll, because when you have big tires, your car is kind of leans when you're turning, and if you're going too fast, it's gonna make like a squeaking, like those noises, like a squealing noise. So that's all that will happen. So you actually it's gonna make that noise if you have bigger tire. And when you have those skinny low profile tires, it gives you a little bit better handling, but you're not gonna feel that difference unless you're driving at high speeds. So there's no reason really to have bigger wheels, because it's only really for looks, to sell more cars for the manufacturers, because they look cool. So that's what I hate about the STI, is the spoiler, the big wheels. And also on the STI, they have those really bright and shiny yellow or red Brembo brakes, which you could see like 2 blocks away. And it just says like, oh, look at me, I have a special car. Why don't you just steal my wheels or steal my car? On a WRX, it's just like regular brakes with regular wheels. So it's not as flashy. And believe it or not, if you could Google this, but STI happens to be the most popular stolen car out of the Subaru lineup, especially like the wheels and the parts, because those parts and wheels is interchangeable with many other cars, especially Subarus. So those will get stolen more than the WRX. So if you don't care about your car being a higher chance of getting stolen, then you could just get the STI, because it's in higher demand for thieves. If you don't care about that, then I guess you have the money to pay your deductible. If your car gets stolen, you have the money to pay for the rental car. Obviously, if you have plenty of money, you don't care about money, you should get the STI, like I said it before, and I'll keep saying it. Let's go also to another feature that I like about the WRX is that with this feature, actually it's not a feature, but so if you look at this engine, the engine on WRX is a little bit smaller. It's 2.0 liter versus 2.5 liter on STI. So if you look at this engine, there's actually gaps. You actually see spaces. Because remember, this car was designed for 2.5 or 2.0 liter, and this is a little bit smaller engine. It's a smaller block. So you have some spaces here. What that means is that you have more air circulating through the engine when the car is on and cooling off the engine. On STI, everything is really packed in here. It's just packed in. There's no space. There's no space to put your hands to work on it, really. It's too cramped. So which means not only that it's harder to work on your car, but also if you think about it, those like V8 cars with the V8 motors, they have like always hoses drying out, gaskets cracking, leaking. Is because the engine generates a lot of heat, and because there's not much gaps here, the air is not really circulating, cooling off the engine properly. Where in these smaller engine, there's more air cooling off your engine all the time. So by physics, it should be a little bit more reliable than a bigger motor. At the same time, there's a negative. The smaller engine will wear out faster because it has smaller parts, and it takes more strain on everything. Transmission is smaller, the engine's smaller. The bigger motor could last longer because it's a bigger motor, it's more heavy duty, has bigger parts. So it's just that everything around the motor is gonna kind of start maybe getting too hot, and the hoses and everything might start like cracking and leaking and drying up. So that's what my review is. So I hope this really helps for you guys to decide which car you want, because like I said, on the outside they look exactly the same besides a spoiler. On the inside it's a completely different car. Also, I believe the STI comes with those Recaro seats, the racing seats, which I don't really care for. I like just the WRX has pretty comfortable seats as well, so I don't really care about that. So like I said, on the outside they look the same. On the inside, all the both cars are very different. STI also has front and middle and rear differential. It has more differentials, like, because it has, remember, that torque transfer system when you're controlling how you want to set up your car. If you want to make it front wheel drive, back wheel drive, or just all wheel drive. So it has more. It has like reinforced differentials, which will last longer. But at the same time, that knob, when you're adjusting that knob or the dial, if you're driving, let's say, mud or snow, and then you forget to adjust it back to the pavement, and you're driving in the pavement in that mode, it's going to destroy your all-wheel drive. And that's kind of easy to do. If you just if you accidentally hit the knob, or you forget to adjust it, or someone was in your car and they adjusted it or turned it by accident, and you're driving on a pavement in that mode, it's going to destroy your all-wheel drive. It's going to cost thousands of dollars to replace it, where WRX doesn't have any of those dials or knobs to turn, so there's nothing to worry about. But then the STI has more heavy-duty parts, the differential, transmissions, so it's going to last longer. And it has a bigger motor, so it's probably going to last longer. So, you know, each one of these cars has pros and cons. Also, when I test drove both cars at the same day, I noticed that the WRX, when you're pressing the gas, it kind of has no power, like from the start. It only has a lot of power when the turbo kicks in, but the STI has power from the beginning, where as soon as you hit it in second gear, you get sucked in your seat, and it just has like you feel the G-force. You feel the G-forces. On the WRX, you only feel the G-forces when the turbo kicks in. So it's definitely, the STI is definitely more to drive like from the start, because it has a lot more, it has like 30-40 horsepower and torque more, has a bigger turbo. That's seems like what the torque is, the difference is the torque, since it's more torquey and has bigger turbo, it just has like that kick from the beginning, where WRX doesn't really kick from the beginning. It only kicks after you're kicked in your turbo. So, but even though on paper it says that WRX and STI is the same from 0 to 60 and a quarter mile, because the STI is actually about 300-400 pounds heavier, and it has those bigger wheels. So on paper, on the statistics, it says that they're the same, almost the same, from 0 to 60 and a quarter mile. So I was only worrying about the 0 to 60, because that's when you really mostly use that acceleration. So I didn't feel like spending extra $10,000, and like I mentioned several things before, it wasn't worth it to me to spend extra $10,000. But if I had the money, or money was not an issue, I would just buy the STI. I would actually buy both of them. I will buy both. So that's what my review is of the two cars. I hope that helps, and thank you for watching my video, and take care.